All right, moving on to the second label, and that is the Siempre Reposado. And this is the regular Reposado, not the Rebel Cast Reposado. Again, similar package style, beautiful, cool label. Interesting album art on the side, and I'll explain to you what those are and what this represents. And then, of course, my favorite, look at this production transparency. I mean, just absolutely love when brands give consumers this kind of information and making it so readily available. And again, same kind of bottle, same bottle height, that kind of heavy, hand-blown styled glass. This just looks really good. It looks really clean. And I'm always afraid to use the word authentic, because what does authentic even mean? But the packaging and the labels, I think, very much fit the brand and what the brand is trying to communicate to consumers. And again, I'm going to be referencing the write-up that I wrote for my website on Siempre, and I'm going to read what I wrote for the Reposado. And again, I'm going to link that write-up below. The Reposado label is double distilled in copper pot stills at the Feliciano, Vivianico y Asociados distillery, which is NOM 1414, in Arandas, Jalisco, from 100% Blue River agave sourced from a single estate in the Los Altos region. Sourcing the agave from a smaller and more defined location or a single estate is the first sign of increased quality for this product compared to the Plata. The agave is cooked in stone and brick ovens, crushed using a roller mill, and open air fermented using a rum and champagne yeast strain. The water source comes from a deep well. Next, the tequila is aged between 2 and 6 months in American white oak vats with a deep hand-fired char, and these vats are called pipones. And so that is what is featured on that kind of side art on the label. So these are not barrels, these are not, think the traditional 53-gallon or 200-liter bourbon barrels. These are these large oak vats that are, going to have a much smaller kind of surface area of wood to tequila, and so they're going to impart much more minimum flavors compared to being in a barrel. Now they're saying they refire these, so they're going to give a bit more flavor, but compared to a lot of brands at the Reposado will still use kind of traditional ex-bourbon barrels. They're using pipones. You see this from some other brands. It seems to be very traditional in tequila making. I'll put a picture up on the screen of what a pipon looks like. The final product is bottled at 80 proof or 40% ABV and is verified additive free by Tequila Matchmaker. Not too long ago, I got the chance to go to La Rojeña, the distillery for Jose Cuervo in the town of Tequila in Jalisco, and they have a wide variety of pipones at the distillery that you get to see during the tour, and it's really cool to be able to see them up close and personal and see how big they are. And it's just kind of a different way of doing things. Or it could be argued that when it comes to aging Reposado tequila, that because you want the aging to be a bit more minimum, you don't want it to be crazy barrel forward, you don't want it to be super barrel forward, you still want to be highlighting the agave with kind of more subtle oak flavors. Then it could be said that the right way to do that is aging in a vat or a pipon, as opposed to aging in a barrel, like a traditional bourbon barrel, where you're going to have a greater ratio of wood to aging tequila. And so that tequila is going to take on greater color and greater barrel flavors, that from that barrel versus a pipon. So, it all probably comes down to the flavor profile and the color that particular producer wants to make. And so Siempre, they're using pipones, so they probably want the color to be a lot lighter. They want it to be more agave forward, versus other brands want their Reposado to perhaps be a little more robust, a little darker in color, a little more barrel influence. I kind of like that. I love Reposados. Like, I drink a lot of bourbon. I love kind of barrel forward spirits, but I also love silver tequila, and I love drinking that kind of pure agave flavor. For me, a Reposado is a really nice sweet spot where I have a little influence from the barrel, but it's still agave forward when done well. And I understand not everyone does it well, but when done well, I like a little barrel influence. I have a very Americanized palate. I like bourbon. I like barrel flavors, but I still want that agave flavor. I still want it to be agave forward. So for me, yes, I drink silver tequila, but for me, a Reposado is that nice sweet spot. It's that Goldilocks of tequila. Versus, I guess the more traditional American palate is they really, really like añejos, and they view añejos as ultimately more premium just because they are more expensive. For me, it's less about price and it's more about flavor profile, right? And añejo, just by the amount of time in barrel, means it is going to be a barrel forward tequila. It is going to be much more bourbon-esque, much more influenced by the barrel than a reposado. And again, every brand does it differently. Even brands like G4, really well done tequila. Even their añejo is super, super light, right? They don't want to whitewash that agave flavor by the time spent in barrel. But every brand does it differently. Some are going to have more barrel flavor, some are going to have less barrel flavor, and it completely comes down to your palate. What do you like? That's where I think you shop around, you try a couple different brands, and and look at those production details. How much time is it spent in barrel? Is it spending the legal minimum? Is it spending the legal max? Somewhere in between? Are they using call it second fill barrels? Are they using fourth, fifth, sixth fill barrels where it's basically almost inert? So anyway, that's where knowing your products and knowing the production methods and knowing their kind of barrel management is super, super important. So I'm going to talk. We're about to taste this reposado, and we're going to look at the color. We're going to talk through the official tasting notes from the brand. But I just wanted to kind of throw my 2 cents in on my personal love of reposado tequilas and how much variance there is in reposado tequilas. You're given defined, legal parameters for reposado tequilas. 2 months in barrel, and then you can go all the way up to, at that 1 year cutoff, that is your bump up to the añejo category. So, you have, a lot, you can manipulate the flavor profile quite a bit between 2 months and just under 1 year. Some brands like Herradura or Herradura from Brown-Forman, they want to push that legal max, and Brown-Forman, American Whiskey Company, right? Jack Daniel's, Woodford, Old Forester, they own their own cooperages. They're all about the barrels, right? So it should be no surprise that they're going to have a very barrel forward tequila. Even on their silver tequila, they're even putting that in barrel for 45 days. So again, that brand is all about the barrels, and that's not something they hide. That's something they highlight. For them, that is a selling point. For other particular flavor profiles, that might not be as appealing. So again, every palate's different, every producer is different, every parent company is different. So that's what's so fun about this category. But enough talking about it. Let's try it. So again, this is a pretty light color, I would say, for a premium reposado, and that's done on purpose by using those pipones as opposed to a traditional bourbon barrel or former bourbon barrel. Actually, before I taste of this, let me read what the brand has chosen to write about this product. This beautiful aged spirit boasts notes of oak, fruity undertones, honey, and vanilla, underpinned by cooked agave. There is a smooth harmony on the palate, not unlike what is shown in some excellent bourbons. Soft and subtly sweet, verified additive-free tequila, uniquely aged in white American oak vats with a deep hand-fired char. Made by the Vivianico family in Arandas, Jalisco, known for their exquisite reposados. And the official tasting notes from the brand are apple and dried fruits, biscuit, vanilla with caramel, honey, and oak. So, pretty simple, pretty straightforward. See, and maybe it's because I'm just getting over a cold, but this has a much more subtle nose to me than their Plata. You still get a nice balance of oak flavors as well as agave flavors, but to me, it's a little more toned down. And again, take that with a grain of salt because I also had a cold last week. Apple, dried fruits, biscuit, vanilla and caramel, honey, and oak. All right, let's give it a first sip on the palate. It's got like this warmingness to it. That's just like it's like a slow break on the palate. Like it just like slowly builds and warms the whole palate in like a very gentle arc. Apple and dried fruits, I could definitely see that. The vanilla and caramel and that kind of honeyed oak is there, but it's very subtle. This is not an oak bomb. And I could have guessed that by the color and just by reading the fact that they use vats or pipones instead of barrels. traditional barrels. This is really nice. Very drinkable, not boozy at all. Again, these are all going to be 80 proof for the silver, the reposado, and the añejo. This is very subtle, very enjoyable. The oak and the agave feel very well integrated. All right, I'm going to revisit it. Okay. Oak flavors, a little bigger on that second sip. I still get that apple and dried fruits, which really kind of pairs very nicely with those agave flavors. The agave flavors are in there. They're not whitewashed by the barrel, but they're very well integrated, and there's a nice balance between the two. And again, remember I talked about the Plata finished very clean on the palate? This also has a cleanness to it, but there's a little more coating, like it coats your palate a little more. It's not clingy, it's not heavy, but it coats your palate a little more, but it still finishes very clean. Like some brands, you take a couple sips and it feels like you could chew it, you know? Like it's like that viscous. This has a cleanness to it, an elegance to it, but there's some subtle restraint to this. And some people may like that, some people may not. I mean, some people, when you start getting to this price point, you know, we're talking super premium tequila, some people expect a big bomb of flavor, you know, whether it's agave bomb, barrel bomb. This isn't a bomb. This is subtle, it's enjoyable, and it's balanced in terms of oak and agave flavors, but, you know, it's not loud, it's not big and bold. This would be wonderful in cocktails. You know, I think you still get enough agave flavor in here to know you're drinking a tequila, but that little, I guess it's not little, but that barrel influence might add some nice extra layers of flavor depending on what type of cocktail you want to make. Reposado tequilas in an espresso martini. I prefer reposado tequilas in a margarita. And then I think even tequila soda, I think this might be really nice. Again, you know, I don't want to go too far down the cocktail rabbit hole because, you know, again, this is a super premium tequila. And, you know, I might get some criticism in the comments about extensively mixing a tequila at this price point. But, you know, tequila is meant to be drank. You know, you drink it however you want. Neat, on the rocks, simple mixed drinks, cocktails, complicated cocktails. But this is really nice. I really like reposados in my tequila sodas. I like reposados in my palomas. And I like reposados in my margaritas. And I really like a reposado in my espresso martini. And I think this would be wonderful in any of those. Most important question, is this product worth the money? So, in my market, the reposado retails somewhere between $41 and $44, so just a slight price bump over the Plata. So to me, you know, you're still almost at that $40 price point, you know, in between $40 and $45. So for under $45, I think this product is still worth it. I think you can buy in, if you're a fan of the brand, you buy into what they're doing, the agave sourcing, the high quality production, the levels of transparency, and the restraint they put on this reposado, you know, that balance between oak flavors and agave flavors. I don't think it's easy to do, and I think they do a really good job of finding that balance. And so for me, I think this product is definitely worth the money. Now, who is this product for? This product is for someone that loves tequila, enjoys reposado tequila, but doesn't want a barrel bomb reposado. You know, save the barrel bombs for other brands, or, you know, even like añejo or more aged expressions. To me, this is for somebody that wants super premium tequila under $50 that is looking for a beautiful balance between oak flavors and agave flavors. I completely forgot. Okay, I actually have 2 bottles of Siempre Reposado. So the first bottle is, I think, their more recent production. So again, that is going to be bottled at that NOM 1414. But this older bottle I have, so it's hard to tell on camera, but it's got this rounded shoulders. It doesn't quite have that kind of textured hand-blown glass look. It's a different bottle, and you can even see. So here's the label for the older Reposado. Here's what one side looks like. Here's the other, some art, none of that beautiful label art. And then you can see your kind of production details down here. So again, this is an older bottle that I was given that I forgot I had that I wanted to actually taste here on camera. And then this is NOM 1438. So 1438, I don't know that off the top of my head. I'll put on the screen like who that is. But so this is NOM 1438, and the other Reposado, the newer Reposado, is 1414. So older contract. Again, this is still 80 proof, 40% ABV. And I'm very curious, Alex, if you're actually watching this, Alex LaCroix, if you wanted to tell me like when you guys quit using these bottles and this contract distillery, I'd be super fascinated to know how old this bottle is. Let's see, this is bottle number 68,197. And again, yeah, NOM 1438. So let's give it a try. Again, the color looks very similar. I might even say this is just a tad lighter. It's got a slightly different nose, not huge, but slight different. I would say this is like the other Reposado is perhaps, perfect 50-50 balance of, oak and agave. This is a little more agave forward. And if it's a lighter color, maybe that's to be expected. So let's give it a try. Ooh. God, that tastes different. It really does. I mean, different distillery. Should be no surprise that it tastes different. I think that's more barrel forward. It's good, though. It's really good. I would definitely say this is, okay, if the current Reposado is, so if you have your scale right, the current Reposado is more on that apple dried fruit end of the agave spectrum, agave oak spectrum. This is a little more on that vanilla caramel honeyed oak side. It's funny, on the nose, I think it smelled a little more agave forward, but on the palate, it's just a little more barrel forward. It's really tasty, though. Oh, yeah. Honeyed oak, vanilla caramel, in like a subtle way. We're still kind of toned down. It's not a barrel bomb. But, if the other one's 50-50, this is 60-40, And again, different distillery. And this is pretty normal for brands, especially, I know Siempre was recently acquired, or the majority of Siempre was acquired by Prestige Beverage Group. When you use these contract distilleries, it's very common to every so often have to change distilleries. And so, yes, you can have a set production method you want. You can have a set guidelines for where you're sourcing your agave, but obviously every distillery is going to be different. And so, this is not a night and day difference than the other Reposado, but it is different. I think they're both very good, and I think they're both very good in their own different ways. So again, I don't even know, you definitely can't buy this anymore, but for anyone that's got a bottle of the kind of older Siempre Reposado, I just thought it'd be fun to taste it since I had it, and since they have a different packet, like a noticeably different package here on my desk. That was really fun, and I want to get it. I haven't gotten a chance to try those back to back, so that was really fun. All right, that's it. So thank you for watching part 1. Part 2, I'm going to talk about the Supremo. I'm going to talk about the Rebel Cast Reposado, and I'm going to talk about the Exclusivo Vivo. So those are the next 3 Siempre products that I'm going to chase through in the next video. Thank you so much for watching. If you are enjoying this content but don't care about the video component of these tastings, then I highly recommend you check out my podcast. It's just the audio component for these tastings and brand educations. You can find it on Spotify. You can find it on Apple Podcasts. You can find it any platform that you listen to your podcast. If you're watching this on YouTube, leave me a comment. Let me know if you have any feedback for the channel, any recommendations of products or categories that you want to see on this channel. If you want to have a more in-depth conversation, or if you have a more detailed question, please shoot me an email. I personally read all the emails that I receive, and I do my best to respond to each and every one of them. So I'll leave my email down below in the description. Please shoot me an email if you have a more kind of detailed question that you want to talk through. If you are a spirit supplier and you're interested in seeing one of your products featured on my channel, please shoot me an email as well. I'd love to have that conversation. Finally, if you'd like to be notified whenever I have new content on my website or this YouTube channel, please consider subscribing to my email newsletter. I'll leave a link below in the description. And if you'd like to support this channel further, please consider becoming a Patreon member or gift me a cocktail through the link below in the description. I very much appreciate your support. It is this community support that is what makes this channel possible. So thank you so much again for watching. I hope you learned something. And as always, please drink responsibly.